What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Young Legends podcast, where we help you get the cheat codes of the game of life. I'm your host, Caption, aka Caption Red, and my guest today is Damon Sumner, who is an award-winning stand-up comedian. Since starting comedy in Atlanta, Damon has shared the stage with numerous headliners like Eliza, Brent Morin, George Wallace, Sarah Tiana, Tone Bell, and so many more. He can be seen on the Weather Channel's Weather Gone Viral, Epic's Unprotected Sets, that's SETS, and heard on SiriusXM. He's also the co-host of the hilarious podcast 4th and 10, created the YouTube channel Better Dad, runs comedy shows all around the ATL, as well as performing all over the country. In this interview, Damon shares his secrets to success in comedy and in life, how he writes comedy, how he chose his wife, how he balances comedy, family life, and all his other endeavors, as well as an epically embarrassing story. So without further ado, here's my interview with the hilarious Damon Sumner. Damon, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you today, man?
I'm great, brother. How you doing?
I am fantastic. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. You're a hilarious guy. I've seen you live multiple times, and I'm just excited about this conversation. Now, what I like to do is I like to start every interview with a fun story, a funny story, just a cool story of something that happened to you, whether it was in comedy or just elsewhere. Do you have anything to share with myself and my audience?
Appreciate you having me on, Caption. I appreciate that. I'm excited to, holler at you for a little bit of time. I jumped into comedy back in 2010, and like every comic, you start out very poor, and if you get into comedy for money, you're already lost. And so,
Right.
the grind was real. And I had a close friend. We started together, and long story short, his uncle in our first year was like, yo, come do my high school reunion. Now, being the poor comics we weren't wise. And so it was like, yeah, let's get this $100. Right. And so we pull up, we drive about 45 minutes outside of Atlanta. That's already strike one. And we pull up to this little venue, and we should have off top known there was an issue because the parking lot was really only filled with Cadillac DeVille's. That's a specific type of people. LeSabres, and then local community like church vans with the wheelchair accessibility on the side. And I was like, okay. So we get inside, and it was real. Like, I had to ask I was like, yo, like, bro, what year did your uncle graduate? And because everybody was old, right? And so this is year one. So on one end, you're like, yo, I've got 30 minutes when you really have 5. And on the other end, you're shaking in your boots, like, what have we gotten ourselves into? Right? So, like, nobody's there for comedy. Nobody knows comedy's gonna happen. Nothing, right? This is for anybody who thinks comedy's easy. This is for anybody who thinks it just goes from one open mic to Kevin Hart. Like, that ain't it. So anyway, the uncle comes in. He brings me out first. Like, hey guys, like, lights are up. Like, just to get to pay. Like, it's like 80 people in here. People are getting food in the buffet line. There's people standing on the wall chit-chatting. Like, this is a high school reunion. So a lot of them really aren't on social media. So they ain't seen each other in years, right? Talking, catching up. And like, all right, guys, we're going to do some comedy. Nobody stops talking. Lights don't fade, nothing. He's like, all right, give it up for Damon Sumner. And so I just walk up there, man, with a wireless mic. And it's just like 3 people looking at me. Everybody else is just minding their business. And I just do all of my material. And then I just crowd work 2 older women in the front row. And I'm sweating. Like, I'm already a sweater, but I was sweating. This was the winter, and I was sweating. I bring up my friend, David Perdue, and bring up David. He struggles with 10 minutes. We both run off to the back room. We're like, man, we got to get our money and get out of here. Right. Now, climax of this story here is I'm getting my food, getting ready to leave. I'm over here in the corner by myself, eating my fillings. And as this is happening, 2 older fellas walk up to me, a taller guy and a shorter guy. The taller guy walks up to me. He's like, hey, man, saw your set. I was like, appreciate it. Yeah, my friend wanted to tell you that you should quit comedy.
Oh no.
And I said, well, I appreciate your recommendation. And then I took my oxtails, we got in the car and we drove back to Atlanta. And that was probably the end of my first year of stand up.
Oh man. Oh gosh. Ah, dude, I have been there.
Yeah.
The audience that isn't expecting you,
Ooh.
uh, they're not a great crowd. The audience that doesn't want comedy, they are not a great crowd.
No,
Oh
brother.
man, I've been there multiple times, dude.
Yes, sir.
I'm feeling your pain and laughing just because I've
You
walked in
know,
your
you
shoes.
know. Yes, sir.
That's wild, man. That's wild. Oh, good stuff. Very cool, man. Well, I'm glad you didn't quit, and maybe you can find that man and let him know that you are legit now. You and your buddy. There you go. Cool, man. So, when did you started about 10 years ago? So, did you want to do comedy before that, or was it just 10 years ago, you went to an open mic and said I could do this, or what was that journey like as far as you pursuing comedy?
Yeah. No, I didn't grow up wanting to be a stand-up, have aspirations to do any type of, performance stuff, to be honest with you. A lot of great comics or just comics in general, they kind of have a story of their mom or dad or somebody in the family was playing Pryor records or Carlin records or,
Hmm.
things like that growing up, watching SNL, late night sets. I didn't have any of that. I just had, I'm the oldest of three boys. Funny was family, we like to laugh. I loved making people laugh. That was true. That's
Hmm.
since the sandbox. That was something I very quickly realized. Not only am I pretty good at this, but I also really enjoy it. I enjoy bringing joy and like and laughter, like smiles to other people. Like that was just a real thing in elementary school. I was like, oh, I like giving this feeling, right?
Hmm.
But push comes to shove, life happens. Graduate college, moved to Atlanta, 2010, and I was kind of at a crossroads because we had moved to Atlanta, my wife and I, after college, and career was kind of not going anywhere. The recession was popping, and I was in a deadbeat job. I had my first kid on the way, and I was like, dude, what are we gonna do? And so I was after an event one day, me, David, like I said, the guy I've been with for a long time. We're just talking, laughing, hanging out with some friends, and one person said, "Yo, y'all ever thought about doing stand up?" I hadn't, he hadn't, but it was like, "Yo, let's push each other." We signed up for an open mic in Atlanta, Laughing Skull Lounge, my home club. We do the open
Hmm.
mic a day after my birthday in 2010. And literally from that moment, the rest is history. I've never stopped. After that first night on stage, which went well, primarily because friends and family were there.
Hmm.
But after I was like, I got back in the car. I was like, oh, this is it. I really don't know how, because again, I've never really thought this was a thing, but this is what I want to do. And from that one question to that first up mic, that was the path ever since.
Right, right. And is it like when you're up on stage, do you feel like the rush? Is that I hear a lot of comedians say that.
Yeah, the rush never dies. I mean, I think for myself, I think once that rush dies, you got to kind of maybe step back for a second, kind of reevaluate some things. But there's the thrill of walking into a room, especially now where you're kind of unknown, right? Especially to win over this room of people who come with the expectation and the desire to have a great time, to have a great night, to laugh, to get out, to not worry about their cares and their problems, and just have a great night of laughter. That rush never dies down. You still get the butterflies a little bit. They come and go, but they're always there. Until that name comes, until that first laugh hits, until that
Mhm.
first joke crushes. You know what I mean? So that rush, yeah, it's always there. It makes it exciting. Yeah, and I wouldn't want it for anything else.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. All right, so you start 10 years ago. When did you really start seeing some success with comedy, right? Like you said, it's not open mic and Kevin Hart the next day.
Hmm.
So, what's that journey like?
Hmm.
Because a lot of people don't know.
Yeah. It definitely comes in increments and it comes in seasons, right? So I think I think one of the first things, is again, open mic. And if you're not familiar with open mics, it's basically signing up on a list, going to a show, and then they call your name. You do 3 to 5 minutes, you get off the stage. Nobody knows you, right? That's kind of just the gist of open mic. Anybody can kind of go up, that type of deal. So you do that, you bust your tail, you do that for a long time. And in the midst of that, as you're moving up the ladder, a couple things happen. For myself specifically, I actually had the chance to travel abroad and teach for a year in China. So this was big for me for many reasons, but just for brevity, I think one thing that was big was over there, I got a chance to start doing extended sets, 15, 20, 30 minutes. And so for a comic who wants to build their act, right, they want to get to that hour special. They want to get that, that comedy album. That's what you got to work on, the longer sets, extending the bits. And so I remember being in Shanghai, I got a chance to co-headline a show, and the stars just aligned that night. Just everything hit. The crowd was loving it. The feedback after was great. So I was like, okay, this is a stepping stone here. I've obviously, at least in my opinion, was building something that people were enjoying. And, for myself, one of my goals is that I want my act to travel. I want to be able to take, my act around the world. And so this was kind of just a small step in the right direction. Like, okay, we're moving in the right direction, right? We moved back. And things began to move in the right direction. I start going from open mic, you start going to the host. Host is a big role, very important role in a great show. A good show with a bad host becomes a bad show. Like
Sure.
you just have to know how to host well. And then you move over to the feature, which is an important spot where a lot of comics will be, for a good bit of time, because that's the middle in a typical show. You have, if it's, kind of a threesome, you have this host, the feature, right? And you have the headliner. And so the feature is the sweet spot, because the host, you've got the job of, making sure the crowd's right, making sure the announcement, you come in cold, you've got things to do. You got to remember names, you got to keep up with time, you got to light people. It's a lot going on as a host. The headliner, there's a little more expectation. Maybe there's a name, maybe you're a draw, maybe you're getting paid more, you're doing almost an hour, right? But the feature is a sweet spot for a comic to really grow, because you don't have any responsibilities besides to crush, to kill for 20, 25, 30 minutes. That's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was great, because I got a chance to feature for several comics over the last, really from year 3 through where I am now. And so just that journey, moving up that, maturing as a comic was really great. And then probably around year 6, I started doing shows on the road, which is another level, because now, just on the comedy side, just on the art form side, I'm now really specifically in the States, taking this out of town, out of state, into different cities. Again, coming in as a nobody and, headlining one-nighters, headlining venues, and really pushing myself to say, okay, all right, this is what you want to do. You got to go into Tulsa, you got to go into Little Rock, you got to go into Omaha, you got to go into Charleston, and see how strong this act really is. And so that has been one of the last few things I've really been excited to do. And now, it's going to be 2 years in May, I've been able to be a full-time comedian.
Nice.
Primarily, I appreciate it. Primarily doing the shows I run in the city, and also working with Carnival Cruise Lines and doing colleges. This kind of a culmination of things and some other projects. And so, yeah, and everyone, also say that everyone has a different journey, a different path, which is great. We can celebrate other successes. And so for me, that's kind of been my avenue.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. And yeah, you've won awards and you're living the dream, man. That's what you're doing. And I know a lot of people, have seen you on your journey. I've seen you on your journey and going from a, part-time comedian to a full-time comedian. That's just amazing. Now, speaking of comedy, your stuff is hilarious. I love, I was watching one of your videos last night and I was just dying. Um, what's your technique? How do you write comedy?
Mm.
How do you get in there and do your thing and go from nothing to a full joke and a set and a bit and so on and so forth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I've always been someone who enjoyed writing. And so there's a lot of different styles and opinions on how they write. And so for myself specifically, I like to actually, I feel like I'm a dying breed, but I actually like to sit down on my computer, on my phone and write. Like I'll try to crank out time. Now it's not necessarily like, 9 to 2 every Monday through Thursday. But whether it's, on an airplane or whether, wherever it is, I do intentionally sit down to write. And so for myself, what it looks like, primarily, I kind of have this line where I feel like where I am now is this combination of observational storytelling, just this concoction of
Hmm.
I've got some stories, but then I also walk around like everybody else and like, yo, what's up with this? And just
Hmm.
kind of bring it together, right? And so you start at a moment, right? You take, for example, this Greyhound bit I'm working on. And so right now it's not polished. It's not at a point where I feel like, yo, every time I do this, I expect it to crush. I expect it to go very well. So it's not at that moment yet. So I'm kind of in the middle phase, which is a great phase. And so what that looks like is something that happened. I rode a Greyhound bus and right, this experience happened, this moment happened. So what I do is I just start getting on my computer, my phone, and I'll just start typing out that experience. I'll talk about things that went well. I'll talk about things that went poorly. Just side note, not a fan of Greyhound. Sorry, we
Hmm.
can cut
Sure.
that out if you want a sponsorship. But
Right.
uh, with that being said, so yeah, I'll talk about the time. Okay, the bus driver didn't respond to anybody's questions, and he just looked for it. We weren't talking to him. I'll talk about how I go from being on the bus by myself, coming back off the restroom, and now I've got a seatmate, and she was very intriguing, to be polite.
Hmm.
And so I'm just writing all these things down, and I am writing it down in a sense of like I'm not necessarily trying to make it funny immediately. I just want to get
Right.
my thoughts on page. So for me, you look at my Google Drive, which is my AKA joke book,
Hmm.
and it looks at the beginning like just paragraphs, right? Just a long
Sure.
one paragraph, no indentions. And
Hmm.
then what I'll do is I'll take that and then I'll go to shows and you go to the mics and then I just start. Now at this moment, I've got to the point where I've grown from that. At the beginning, that paragraph would sound very robotic because I was trying to quote unquote memorize it.
Right.
But now at this point in my career, I'm able to kind of still write that out long paragraph form, and now it just kind of flows more, in a conversation format. And then you got to record everything. So I record every set, and then the real work really goes in is where the revision and the editing and listening over and over again,
Sure.
and now cutting out the fat. Seinfeld talks about, you want to get from the setup to the punchline as fast as possible.
Hmm.
All the extra words and fluff, get them out of there because setup to the punch, boom, faster laugh, more laughs type of thing. And so yeah, so I just do that process over and over. I cut out the fat, I add more tags being small little extra, jokes that come off the main punchline, right? So it's just like boom, uppercut, quick jab, right, type of deal. And then
Hmm.
yeah, you just fine tune it and fine tune it, and to the point where you do it at multiple shows over and over and different type of shows. I think that's key in my
Hmm.
opinion. So you might go do a room that's full of diverse millennials. Then I might pull up to the burbs. Then I might hit a show that's alt. Then I might hit a biker show. Then I might hit a show for older black men and women. You know what I'm saying? Like it just
Right.
so just this diversity because I want, again, like I said, for myself, I got to keep my purpose in mind and my goals, which is I want this to travel. So I need to
Hmm.
be able to do it and get it through the process in different type of rooms. So and then once it's working more times than not everywhere, I'm like, okay, I turn it green in my Google Drive and like this joke is pretty much quote unquote polished in the sense where when I pull it out, when I do it, I am expecting it to go well.
Right. Yeah. And I love that you're doing it at different shows, biker shows. Nice. I didn't really think about that, but
Oh yeah,
uh,
bro. They pay
yeah.
too.
Yeah, different audience the city. But um yeah, man. I love that. And I've literally watched you at an open mic and you were looking at your paragraph and you were like looking at it like you were about to give a speech, you were studying it. And I was
Mm.
just watching you look at your stuff and I was like, man, I don't do it like that. I need to up my effort and game because Damon is he is not playing around right here.
Hey, I take every opportunity to get on that stage, I do take it seriously. Chris Rock is my favorite comedian of all time, and I
Mhm.
remember reading an article some years ago before he came out with his last special. So he was in the middle of working out his new hour, and he
Mhm.
was just like, he had twofold. He was like, one, the love for comedy has never left, even if success continues to come. And always loved being on a stage in front of people who want to have a good time. But then also two, he was kind of like he was as he was working the road and doing the new hour, he was going into clubs and meeting a lot of younger rising comics. And he was kind of disappointed where a lot of cats, seasoned or unseasoned, were wasting time at shows and mics and kind of just playing around. And I'm not saying you can have fun and be a little silly, but also to the point, like don't forget the gym. Our open mic is the gym, right? Our gym is the open mic. Like that's
Mhm.
where we go to work out. And so there is something that is very critical and valuable in the process of maximizing 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. Because if it's six people in the crowd, if it's 100 people in the crowd, those people are there to have a good time. And at an open mic is different because it's more so, again, like I said, where you're working on and fine tuning it, but you got to maximize it. So when you hit that booked show that's paying you this number of dollars, you want that set to be polished, and the mic is where it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Chris Rock too. And, a lot of people don't realize how much of a job this is.
Right.
And, the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that go into it. So I'm glad that you just highlighted that just aspect of it. Now, speaking of big name comedians, you've opened for some big name comedians. What's that been like, particularly like your interaction with them? Because people are, one thing I've learned about comedians is some of them are like, just loud and energetic, and then you just talk to them as a regular person, and you're just like, what?
Mhm.
This is
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Right, right, right. It is very interesting because everyone is going to do what they do on stage, and for some comics, them on stage is 100% authentically them. For some comics, they kind of create a character. Some comics, they kind of take it up a notch, or some comics, they kind of dial it down on stage. But off stage, is where I love to kind of get a chance to. I mean, I'm still a student of the craft. I hope I never stop trying to be a student of the craft.
Hmm.
So, in a very non pesty type of way. I love to just kind of sit and listen and just kind of watch. Like if I get a chance to work with a headliner, for a weekend, I just want to watch each set because I'm looking at how they change it, from the front end to the back end. Okay, they put their opener in the middle and all these things that can get very nerdy as a comic fan. But yeah, I've worked with some people. Eliza, she was great. George Wallace, Sarah Tiana, Robert Kelly, Tone Bell, and, everyone I've worked with have been great. They've been humble, they've been kind, down to earth, they've been willing to, lend an ear, what I mean, just in the sense of like also listening to you because they were there, what I mean, at a point. And so, just taking their feedback, taking their advice, has been beneficial. And so, I definitely don't take any of that for granted because, it's a point where, hopefully I get to a point where I could do well. I've been able to do that even at my point now, but as I move up, I want to be that type of person where people can feel, this cat's warm. Like he's willing to, to share. He doesn't have to keep all the secrets to his chest. So I've been able to learn a lot from a lot of men and women over the years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I just love how giving comedians are as far as like seeing the younger ones come up and,
And that's not
just,
everybody. Some people want that door closed
okay.
and, to be by themselves. But for the people I've worked with, door open, willing to chat, just be chill. You know what I mean? Want to grab some lunch, cool. So yeah, it's been real good.
Awesome. Very cool, man. Very cool. Now, as you've gone through comedy, you've learned a lot of life lessons.
Definitely.
I feel like, comedy is a lot like sports in the sense that you just learn stuff as you do it. And it just, it's a great analogy for life. What's an important life lesson that you learned? And it doesn't have to be a comedy life lesson, but what's like an important life lesson that you learned that you just feel like everyone should know?
If I could just think of, if there's an important life lesson I would say off the top of my head is like really trying to work smarter. And I mean that in the sense of like I'm all about working hard and hustling, but like also like, we are just human beings. Like we will break down. So it's like, all right, how do I still get the results and the goals that I want, but being smart about it, right? So for
Mhm.
example, and it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Let me be clear on that. Like it can be small and simple things. So for myself, when I talk to comics about shows and I'm traveling and meeting people, a lot of people, which is, that's fine, that's them, they'll like just try to keep it mentally. And I'm just like, man, we got to write this stuff down. So
Mhm.
one thing that I do when I talk
Right.
about working smarter is just like I create databases, I create lists, I create Excel sheets, like just having things at your fingertip, having emails at my fingertip, where I don't have to research, I don't have to inquire. I've got things there. Where another example of working smart is like comics that I respect and that I like what they're doing. I'll follow them on social media. And this is, if this is for anybody who, this is real nerdy, but what I like to do is I will screenshot their flyers, right? Working
Mhm.
smarter, not harder. I'll
Mhm.
screenshot their flyers of wherever city they're at. Like if somebody has like 10 shows, I'll screenshot it. Then I'll put those shows in my database. That flyer has now let me know that, yo, this venue, this booker already, because I like that comic, I vouch for that comic, that I know that's a good comic, is already able to put on good shows with good comics because they're coming, right?
Mhm.
So now instead of me going to an unknown city at a venue that doesn't know anything about comedy, doesn't have lighting, doesn't have a good mic system, doesn't know how to, set the room, I cannot have to work harder in a bad room on a bad night, right?
Mhm.
I can
Right.
just work smarter and go where the good comedy's already going, right? Type of
Right.
deal. That's just an example of trying to work smarter, not harder. Like, there's only so many hours in the day, and for myself, husband, father, I have to be very mindful of my time,
Mhm.
So
That's
I
right.
have to think about, okay, I've got to get some rest. While I'm up, I want to work smart while working hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to make it comedy's hard enough. You don't have to make
Already.
it any
Yeah.
harder.
Definitely, man. Definitely. If
Yeah.
there's some ways to, minimize the stress, then minimize the stress.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It was one point I went from, as I was starting out and I only had one kid at the time, I was focused on doing a certain number of nights per week.
Mhm.
Um, which was cool at a point in season of my life again. But at the point I had to go from that to I had to change it to a number of sets per week. I was like, all right, I can't get out 5 nights a week. Well, let me try to get 5 sets. So I know I
Mhm.
can get 2 sets on Tuesday. I know I can get two on Thursday and one on Saturday, right?
Right.
So, and then even now, I still do sets, but I also focus now on minutes. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to host these two shows, 10 minutes each. That'll give me 20 minutes of working material and things like
Mhm.
that. So again, it's just trying to be smart about whatever you're trying to do, comedy or not. Like, make sure you're working smart.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And speaking of which, you're a father of three. I don't know if you recommend three, but you're a father of three.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, you're also a full-time comedian. You also have a podcast that you host, Fourth and Ten, and
Mm,
then you also have a YouTube channel, Better Dads.
mm.
Okay, so how are you able to juggle all of this? Like, how do you manage? It sounds like you have four balls in the air. That's a lot of balls to have in the air.
Yeah, yeah. Juggling is an accurate word. I heard somebody say a couple years ago at a talk, he said essentially he was a family man and traveled a lot. And he was like, you just kind of have to get to a point where you are not, well, he basically was like, you have to change the definition of balance. Like, really, at the point, to be honest, it was like, you just really got to get rid of this word as balance and really focus more on present. And he broke it down. And essentially, what that meant was like, he was like, yo, when I'm away from my family and I have to be present at that work. I got to go hard when I'm working. But when
Hmm.
I'm with my family, I'm present and fully invested in my family time. And I think that's key because juggling is very intriguing as a person, as a young adult, as a entrepreneur, as a dream chaser. Because I'm
Hmm.
huge into dream chasing, and there is this toil and this tension of like, man. balance. What does that look like? I'm in a relationship, family. I've got hobbies. I've got these dreams I'm chasing. I got to work 9 to 5. Like I need sleep. Like it's a lot for, for a person. And so for myself personally, when I'm with kids, wife, boom, I'm there, invested, family, we getting it in. When they're asleep, nighttime or morning time, I got to take advantage of that time. I've said for a long time, and now I've kind of changed a little bit, that I hate sleep. That was always kind of too strong. What I think is a better thing for myself is like, I try to keep sleep in its proper role, right? When a sense of like, people need rest. That is important.
Sure.
However, in my opinion, for those who are dream chasing, for those who are trying to really get something, I think you've got to just be cautious of making sure you have adequate. And I say that because I have a lot of friends in their 20s and early 30s who love sleep. I'm like, bro, you got to get up. It's 11,
Right.
right? Just being real, just being honest.
Yeah.
Like if you're not going to put the work in, somebody else will. Like that's just a fact. You know what I mean? And so with that being said, I do try to maximize pockets of time. And I think I recommend that for anybody. Like, you'll find those pockets of time, right? Where, just for example, when I came back from China, I lived in Dallas for a year and I had a 45-minute train commute to and fro work. That's 90 minutes a day, right? You know what I'm saying? So, all right, I could watch that Netflix, cool, bet, get on social media, but I can also work on this. I could also listen to these 2 sets. I could also work on this book outline, right? So maximizing those pockets of time. Kids, I put my kids down at 7:30, right? Boom, hang out with the boo. My wife goes to sleep. She'll fall asleep on me anytime. She goes to sleep. I'll try to do another hour-ish of work right there. That's just my me time, right? Whatever that is. Focus, like especially if I'm in the house, I'm not doing shows. I'll boom, go to the dining room table, put that work in right there. So it's really for, especially if you have a 9 to 5 and you're dream chasing, trying to find those pockets of time and putting the discipline to really, again, working smarter. I don't have to recreate time. There's time there. I might have to, just bring my work, depending on your life. Maybe, you don't have kids or whatever. Like I'm gonna have to bring the laptop to the dining room table and maximize my time, right? Type of deal, which is fine because I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I don't want to stay up to midnight like Damon, which is cool. So let me just work while I eat and then we both win. So I think finding those pockets of time so that the juggling and the balance kind of evens itself out to a degree. Because what is balance?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you sit here and say that, yesterday when I was having dinner, I was watching multiple videos of you doing comedy because I was like, man, I got to watch my man. And yeah, I was definitely doing the same thing. So now you talked a lot about your family. I know you love your family much. How did you decide, or what convinced you that your wife was going to be the one, right? Because there are, let's say, 3.5 billion or so women in the world. You got to pick one, and you got to pick wisely because that's not something you should walk into lightly. So, what was it about her that separated her from all the others and made you say, "Yes, I am going to propose to her and build a life with her"?
Yeah. Well, I think I heard some a long time ago that kind of debunked, which I don't think I even believed in it fully, but it did help me at that moment of my life kind of debunk even just externally the thoughts of the one, in the sense of like, it was, I was actually at a convention and a speaker. He was basically like, yo, he'd been married for like 20 plus years. And he was like, yo, the one isn't the one until you say I do. Meaning the one can be anywhere, as he was kind of, breaking down this point. You go, like I could have stayed, let's say I was single and I was in China doing comedy, could have found the one there. Boom. I could move to Seattle out of high school and start working in there. Boom. I could find the one there. So like, that was one piece that kind of helped me. And so as I met Katoya, we met in high school, dated in college, got married in college. And so, but on that journey, we also had to kind of realize that the laundry list that we like to make as men and women, kind of these are the things that I quote unquote need in a person and all that. You can kind of take that, you can kind of crumble that and put that to the side.
Okay.
Because
All right.
because when you find somebody who you connect with, when you just like something internal makes you go like that whatever was on that list is irrelevant now. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
so that was just a thing that like me and Katori both laughed at this. Like there were several things on our list that either one of us was not bringing to the table. And was like, oh, that list was kind of really made by culture more so like norms and desires and he say, she say.
Right.
Anyway, for me, I loved spending time and being around her. Like
Mhm.
that was the thing. Yeah, beauty and ha ha he he, but like we laughed. We had so much fun together. Like being when you're talking about if somebody's interested, marriage or not marriage, you use that word you want to, you don't use that word you want to. But when you're talking about a relationship, long term, right, with one person, you've got to be able to, and every day is not going to be sunshine, but you've got to be able to enjoy that person. I'm talking about laughing, having fun, interests, not all the same, but some going to be the same, and just enjoying the connection with that person. And I was like, yo, I want to get up. I want to text you every day. I want to see you every day. So that was one piece. Another piece was time, right? Because as we get older, we change, our mindsets change. You want somebody who's also going to challenge you, right? Who's going to push you.
Mm.
And that was also something that even at a young age, like I said, but we already had aspirations and dreams. And so she wanted someone who was going to push each other. We were going to push each other to chase these dreams, to reach these aspirations, to accomplish these goals. So that was also, really exciting, really invigorating, really sexy, to be honest with you.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And so kind of that and a combination of other things was really, I was like, you know what? Listen, I don't really need, and it's just me. And this is just kind of how I just grew up as a person, like looking left and looking right. This is great right here. This, I don't know what else is going on over there. Don't need to
Hmm.
know because this
Sure.
is great right here. So
Hmm.
let's go ahead and shut this down before somebody else gets wind of this and it's too late. And so yeah, that was that, man. And so yeah, I remember shaking and sweating for the proposal, but
Hmm.
she said yes, and it'll be 12 years in July.
Yes, sir, man. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that. That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's yeah, congratulations on finding each other. Y'all
Appreciate it,
really
man.
seem
Appreciate it.
happy together and
Oh yeah.
yeah, I know it's not just like a social media front like, "Hey, look at us." Hey.
No, 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 no. We've been happy off social media as well.
Yeah,
I think another
absolutely.
thing is, if I'm honest too, just a little caveat,
Sure.
because we definitely live in the social media world where
Mhm.
everybody looks happy, right? So on the flip side of that, I also think being able to, like I said, time, how do we handle conflict? Because that's going
Right.
to be in any relationship, right? And so
Mhm.
we were able to figure out our grooves of handling conflict in a healthy way. More times better than others, but like that's important too. So like,
Mhm.
just being real. If somebody over here blowing up and being unsafe, that's a yellow flag in my opinion, right? So you got to be able to see both sides. We got to be able to laugh and eat ice cream, but we also got to have some hard conversations. Not talk for 48 hours and then come back and be able to try to work through resolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's really good and unfortunately, there are people out there who don't fight fair and just
Mm,
are unreasonable, and that is
right,
that's a telltale sign. No, that's
definitely.
good, man. Very good. Okay, so you you've learned a lot through life, right? You learned
Mm,
how to, choose a wife, you learned how to do comedy. You've learned so much and you're a student of life in general, so you're going to continue to learn. But what's something that you wish you had known when you were growing up that really you think would have just revolutionized your life as a younger person, as a maybe a teenager or somewhere around that age frame? Yeah, what's something you
mm.
wish you had known?
I think I wish I would have known and kind of maybe somebody told me, but or adhered to the advice, but just to remain, authentically myself. Like, especially you're talking about a teenager going into college, like those, 4, 8 years, and even going into your early 20s, if we could be very honest, especially on social media where we can kind of look left and right and compare a lot, right?
Hmm.
It's just like, yo, like really just try to figure out who you are and then just be authentically you. I only can speak for myself. And so there were many times I was just trying to be things that I weren't, like just from style, dress wise to even, language, and just how I talked. And, through high school is a tough phase, right? As a teen. And then if you go to college, and even if you don't go to college, just after that, from 18 to 22, you're just trying to figure out yourself, right? And so I think once you kind of get even just a snippet of like, all right, this is who I am, this is what I like. I like, this type of music. I like to rock this type of attire. You know what I'm saying? These are the type of people I like to be around. Yo, like, enjoy that, embrace that, you know what I'm saying? Walk into that, lean into it hard, and don't worry about trying to keep up with the Joneses. Don't worry trying to impress people who you know or who you don't know. And so that was just a thing that like I talk with my only son about that, about, just like really enjoy being in your own skin, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
especially at a young age where being cool, being in, being part of the crowd is a real tension, you know what I mean, for young people. So it's just like, yo, man, once you kind of figure out who you are, you're always gonna grow and evolve, don't get me wrong, but like once you kind of figure out who you are, like be authentically you and be proud about it.
Yeah, I like that. And yeah, I wish I had known the same thing. And the cool thing about growing older is you get to you get to step into that and
Mm.
also care less about
Yeah,
what
definitely.
people think.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Very cool. And also, like, as a guy who's figured himself out and then has become successful by many measures, what is like a success principle, a success habit that you picked up as you were on your journey that just has really revolutionized your life?
The two I'm gonna say are not anything that's groundbreaking, but I think the principles and the habits have led to pretty much most, if not everything, that I've been able to fortunately be a part of in my career, which is one, like really asking and not waiting, like in the sense of like well, my shows that I run in the city, I run some really cool shows
Hmm.
and different type of venues, and I appreciate that. I'm excited about that. Like everything came from me just sending the email. I wasn't waiting around for me to be discovered or for somebody to email me or call me. I sent the emails. The initiative, I guess, is really the word I want. Take
Hmm.
the initiative. Like that's just been something. If I could put it into a little bumper sticker. Yo, take the initiative. Like that habit of me, like the cruises I talked about, the colleges I talked about, those are two different agencies. That was me emailing them. That was me putting in that work at night or in
Hmm.
the morning or on the train, researching, putting those agencies into a database, emailing everybody, and then hoping for the best. And I wasn't waiting for them to email me back because I was still working and grinding. But when they did, I was ready to put in the work. And so just really taking the initiative to do. Like right now, I'm kind of researching and kind of getting ready to, work on a pilot this year. That's one of my big goals is write
Oh,
at
wow.
least one pilot this year. And so yeah, it's something where I'm like, all right, I got to take the initiative. I'm researching, I'm reading pilots, I'm asking people about pilots. Even in that sense, I'm taking the initiative to reach out to people about their work as writers. Like, I have friends who are TV writers. So why am I sitting back? Damon, take the initiative. Hit them with an email. They're good people. They're kind people. They'll share what they know. So yeah, that's one principle that I think has been really crucial for me. That I've really been really honest, being able to see the fruit of it. It's just, take the initiative, man. Go get it.
Cool. Awesome. And was there another, or was that the two?
Oh, the other one was just really like is a dying breed, but like manners and respect. it seems
Ah,
it
nice.
seems old school, but no, like for real, like really, like I'll do a show at a club and I'll just send a thank you email. Like nothing special, nothing over the top. You know what I mean? Just small things like that.
Hmm.
Showing respect when you meet people because you never know anything. You never know, yo, this kid who I was, in senior class with, who I was kind of a jerk to in PE, 3 years later, now they're at this startup that I'm working at and they're, interviewing me, right? Type of deal. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a small world. Like, as you live older, you're like, yo, that's crazy how you know him and I know her and connections. Like, it's just a whole thing. So, like, really, yo, like, show respect wherever you go, wherever you meet people. because even just the interaction, like I've done show goes well, which is fine, but then I'll just chat with somebody after a show and just be kind and courteous. And then they'll hit me up, find me online, and then they'll be like, yo, let's connect, let's do something, right? But it was just being kind and being courteous and showing respect to everybody. Like it's I say that because unfortunately I feel like it's a dying thing. So we got to get back to that, man. Use your manners, people, if you're listening. Use your manners.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big things I've learned in life is when you're difficult to work with, and I've seen
Mm,
people who are difficult to work
yes,
with,
sir.
that can really just negate a lot of your talent because they're
Yeah.
just like, man, hey, that guy's great or that gal's great, but man, they're such a pain. I don't want to go through that again.
Oh yeah, brother. That's so key. I mean, that even goes into back to the relationships thing. Like, yo, you
Hmm.
could be he or she could be attractive, you know what I mean, or whatever. But that attitude, if you a stank attitude make you ugly real quick. And
Yes,
that's
sir.
just yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
that's just how I see it. So that's definitely valuable.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome, man. Well, this has been a really great conversation. I do know that you probably get this question a fair amount. So, what is something that your everyday person can do to improve their comedy chops? Because comedy is one of those cool things that you
Mm,
can take it everywhere you go. You can use
mm,
it in every interaction that you have, and it makes you more attractive. It makes you more just likable,
mhm,
and everyone loves someone who's funny.
mhm.
And the people who don't, I don't, I don't want to be around you. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, what's something everybody could do?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, I first say that when people, come up with shows, they're like, "Yo, man, I can never do this," and I think that's partially true and not true in the sense of like I've seen over the years with social media specifically, like, yo, people are funny. Like that's just one positive. Like
Mhm.
people are funny. The creativity I see from these memes and these gifs and these statuses, I'm like, yo, people are funny. So that's one piece. Two, I think, regardless of whatever industry or field or just friendships, whatever, like I think one of the biggest things as people that we as really as humans that we've done from the beginning of time is storytelling. And that is
Mhm.
one thing, like if people could be better at telling stories, you're like, all right, well, Damon, how do you tell stories better? I think one, you've got to know, right? Because especially you've lived this, this is your story that you're telling. So you lived it. So you know the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? You don't want the story to be too long, right? You got to get right to it. You got to get right to it. Everybody's been somewhere at a dinner party, at a game night. Someone gets into this story, and you're like, bro, wrap it up. Like, what's the point of this
Mhm.
story? That means
Right.
that story is too long. So get to it quickly. Boom, that's one, right? Two, also know like, yo, when somebody is laughing and just enjoying the moment, don't step on those laughs. Let them laugh it out. Uh,
Yes, yes,
but
yes, yes.
but on the flip side, when you see that a joke is not working, keep it moving. You
Hmm.
got to keep it going. Maybe that's just not your audience that night at that dinner party. That's okay, right?
Sure.
But really, just really be good storytellers because we've all got stories. That's what connects us. Like we've all got stories. If I think that's one of the best things about stand up is relatability. Like I go into a room. I've got 4 shows tonight in New York as we're recording this,
Yep.
and I don't know any of these people. I don't live in New York. I don't ride subways. I don't eat cheese pizza 4 times a week, right?
Hmm.
But I'm gonna bring up family, and immediately relatability kicks in. Like, oh, everybody got family, right? And then I tell these stories about my family, and it's just like, oh, we all can connect. And so, yeah, that's all I'll say is yo, work on being a good storyteller.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And speaking of good storyteller, man, your skydiving story, phenomenal.
Appreciate it, man.
I,
It,
yeah.
I was just gonna say it took me it started out very small. I started out really just talking about the jump. So I think
Hmm.
it's like I don't know, like a 3, 4 minute bit. So like really just last like 90 seconds, last 2 minutes tops was the joke for like 3 months. And I was
Hmm.
like, let me just try to open it up and kind of give the whole story of getting there and all of that. So, and expand a little bit, but no, appreciate it. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Might do
yeah.
it tonight now that you said it.
No, please do, man. That's a crowd pleaser right there. That's awesome, man. Very cool, Damon. So, here's the thing. I always end my interviews with some freestyle rapping, and
Hey,
yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kick a little flow about what we've conversed about, and then we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the interview.
solid.
Let me see right here. Yo, check. To the words that I'm dropping. My dude Damon, he does things often. He's just killing it straight from the stage. Yo, he comes through, read off the page. Google Notes, come through is dope. Gotta work on jokes all the freaking time. 45 minutes when you're on the subway. That's how you do when you come through. You gotta get a bunch of things on your mind. Gotta be authentic. That's how I rhyme. Just be yourself so you can see yourself. Get everything you want and some wealth. That's what I'm saying. I am not a kid. Initiative. What you gotta do, send out some emails. That's what you gotta do so you could just open doors for yourself. That's what I'm saying. Yo, put in check. Manners and respect. What we really need so we could just see our dreams come true. You gotta be easy to work with. That's what I'm saying. Bring the gifts. Work a lot smarter. That's what I say. Maybe up on Marta, write a bunch of jokes on your commute. And that's how we do. I'm talking about things. Be a student of life, be a student of the craft. And that's what you gotta do. You gotta take a task and make it grow. And that's what I say when I lace the flow. Write down some jokes, put in that work. Come right now and don't be a jerk. Do a bunch of things so you could be on top. A whole bunch of mic drops, that's what you wanna see. You wanna be like Damon, finding the wife. Finding a person you could build your life with. And that's what I'm saying every single day. Be an individual that just makes his dreams come true. Making a pilot. And that's what he says. He is just riding a success wave straight to the top. And that's what I say. Never freaking stop. My dude, Damon Sumner, he is that dude. Came on through. Made his dreams come true. And you got to do the same. And that's what I say when I spit off the chain. Spit off the top, and that's how I go, and that's what I said with a Sumner flow.
Hey, there it is out here, Freestyle Kings.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. Thank you. It's good stuff. Man, dude, let me tell you something real quick, Damon. Um, Watching you make your dreams come true has been just awe-inspiring, man. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. I am very proud of you as just a person who's seen you on the scene, seen you just make it happen, and it's just really inspiring. And yeah, man, I'm just really honored to interview you, to be honest with you. Not yeah.
I
So
appreciate that, man. That means a lot. I definitely I know there's so many people out here, man, who are trying to, whether in the phase of figuring out, what's their passion, what's their love, because we've got to work. We're gonna be working on this earth for a long time. So like, what's that passion? What gets you excited in the morning? So I've been definitely blessed, man, to do it. And so I always love talking with people, man, who are chasing dreams as well. But yeah, I appreciate the kind words, man. Appreciate this. This was a lot of fun too.
yeah, man, absolutely. I'm excited to put this out and just share your message with the world. Speaking of your message, you have multiple channels of messages. Do you want to go ahead and share where people can find you online, whether it's with your podcast or with your own social media and your YouTube channel and just the whole nine?
Yeah. Well, the big base, you can just check out damonsumner.com, but specifically, get at me on Twitter, DAMONJR, at the number 2 for Instagram. So that's Damon Jr. 2.
Hmm.
You can check me out. I run a great podcast. It's comedy and sports. It's really it's a sports podcast for the non-sports lover. So
Right.
it's for everybody out here. It's with my main man Nathan Owens, David Perdue, my engineer Dan Duncan. You can check that out, Spotify, iTunes, all that jazz. And then the Better Dad channel on YouTube. That's something I'm excited about. Check that out. You don't have to be a parent. You can come get some of these free giggles. But if you know some people who could use a good laugh as a parent, share it, man. I would love to get that out more. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was watching Better Dad yesterday, and I was like, this is quality stuff. This is really good. I'm not a father myself, and I was like, no, these are just good life principles. So
hey, we'll take that.
absolutely. Very cool, man. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag all your social media and everything you just mentioned in the show notes so that people can find you very easily. I look forward to, just watching you and at your next show, the next one I can make anyways. And I'm also looking forward to just watching all the cool things that you're going to be doing. And yeah, man, hopefully we'll see each other in person soon.
Definitely, brother. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, man. Have a great day, and thanks so much.
Thank you, man. You too.